Welcome to our new series for the month of October. As you could probably have guessed, this was not the original series title that I came up with. When I designed this series a year ago, my title was simply Get Out. But my younger colleagues persuaded me to change it to hashtag GTG. Now, for the benefit of those in my age category, GTG stands for Got to Go, which really sums up what I want to say in this series. In 1945, a 22-year-old man left his wife and two children behind in China and hopped onto a slow boat to Indonesia to look for his grandfather who was already there. He was very timid by nature and would never have make such a momentous decision except for the fact that his own mother had made life a daily living hell for his wife. But on the journey, he was so terrified of the sea that he abandoned his journey midway. Though Indonesia was not that far away, he got off when the boat made a stop in Singapore. After a short quarantine on Kusu Island, like all the other visitors, he found a job in Singapore as a laborer and worked for the next 11 years before saving enough money to bring his family over from China. Reuniting after over a decade, they went on to produce 5 more children, of which I am the last. My father passed away 30 years ago while I was still in university, but I have always felt profoundly thankful that he found the boldness to strike out into the unknown in search of a better life for his family. And because of his courage, my entire family, now numbering over 40 people, are all doing well and enjoying the benefits of living in this blessed country. You probably know that October is our missions-focused month, but this series is going to cover more than just missions. What I want to do is to encourage everyone to leave the familiar behind and to strike out boldly, sail out boldly into uncharted waters so that you can live a life that is truly blessed, fulfilling, meaningful, and free from regrets. This is not limited to going into the missions field, but in every area of your life. Now, you are not here by accident. God has a plan for your life. And that plan requires you to do something that is absolutely counterintuitive to most of us. It requires you to get up, pack up, and move out, trusting in God's character and promises. And there is no better example to learn this from than the life of Abraham. Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 5. The Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. We know that God was true to his word because today, 3 of the world's great religions trace their origins back to Abraham: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Their followers make up more than half of the earth's population. There are few names greater than the name of Abraham. And today I want to share 3 key lessons from his life. Lesson number 1 is this: God wants to bless you so that you can be a blessing. Everyone who starts seeking a divine being does so because, well, he or she wants to be blessed. They are looking for benefits, protection, deliverance, peace, or victory. That's why, until God revealed himself to Abraham, all religions were polytheistic. People worship a whole pantheon of gods in the hope that one of them just might be the right one to give them the desired blessing. Now, wanting divine favor is not a problem in itself. God knows that this is how we think. That's why when he appeared to Abram, he makes him stupendous promises of incredible blessings. In the previous chapter, we are told that Abram and his wife Sarah were childless, and she was in fact past childbearing age. So, by saying that he will make Abraham into a great nation, God was offering to bless them with the one thing that they had set their hearts on for many years and had eventually given up on: having children. So God was going to revive their dreams. But the offer was bigger than that. God also promised to bless him greatly and make his name great. And Abraham became exceedingly wealthy and one of the most respected persons in all human history. You see, contrary to what most of us think, God is a God who desires to bless, not grudgingly or sparingly, but lavishly and generously. The Bible describes him as the God who does immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine. Jesus says God gives in good measure, that is pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Yet, my experience from many years of ministry is that most of us have extremely low expectations when it comes to God's blessings because that is not our experience of God. That is why many people, in fact, backslide or drift away because they asked but did not receive. Now, instead of giving up on God, what we need to do is to understand the principles of divine blessing. And the first principle is the principle of purpose. God communicated clearly his purpose for blessing Abraham. Going back to verses 2 and 3, it says, I will bless you and you will be a blessing. Verse 3, I will bless those who bless you and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. You can see two parallel sentences here. The first half of each is a promise, and the second half explains the purpose of the promise. Why would God bless Abraham? So that he would become a blessing to others in turn. Why would God bless Abraham so lavishly that the blessing would even spill over to those who blessed him? Because Abraham was the channel, the conduit that God would use to spread his blessings all over the earth. And we know that the ultimate blessing was that one of Abraham's descendants would be none other than Jesus Christ, Savior of the world. The principle is clear and simple. And if you only apply it to your life, you would experience a lot more of God's blessings. The principle is that God blesses us to be a blessing. He doesn't give us good things so that we can selfishly indulge in our own pleasures. He blesses us so that we can share and benefit others. Yet the truth is most people do the very opposite with God's blessings. God gives you more money than you need. What do you do with it? You hoard it. God gives you a good job, and what happens next? You overwork, focusing only on your own career advancement. God gives you a life partner, and you withdraw into your private romantic world, so that now your friends and family members have less of you. God gives you the wonderful gift of children, and now you have no time for anything or anyone else. God gives you a loving spiritual family, and you cut yourself off from the unbelieving friends instead of spreading the love. Now, it is human nature to seek divine blessing, and God is more than willing to bless. But we will never experience the fullness of God's goodness unless we learn that God blesses us so that we can bless others. It does not mean we cannot enjoy what God gives to us. We can, by all means, but we must not keep the good things to only ourselves. If we become a life-giving reservoir that supplies others, God will keep topping up the good things in our lives. We will never run dry. So the first principle is the principle of blessing. The second principle is the place of blessing. Where in the world can you find God's blessings for you? The answer is found in point number 2. Number 2, God's blessings are outside your comfort zone. When the circuit breaker first started, I set up a foldable table in my living room to do my work as my wife was working in the bedroom. It was difficult to concentrate and find inspiration in an unfamiliar place. And it took me quite a while to get used to it. I'm sure many of you found it a struggle as well to have to switch to working from home. And now that you are doing that regularly, you will find it difficult to go back to the office like in the past. Now, that's human nature. Not only do we have a natural desire to seek greater blessings, we also have a natural tendency to stay put and get comfortable wherever we are because we value stability and security. We want life to have a high degree of familiarity and predictability. The problem is that in God's scheme, familiarity and blessings often don't coincide. The place of greater blessing is outside of your comfort zone. Genesis chapter 11:31 tells us, Terah took his son Abram, his grandson, Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. When God appeared to Abram, he was living in a place called Ur of the Chaldeans. The land of the Chaldeans was highly prosperous, and Ur was its wealthiest city. It had hot and cold running water, a sewage system, multi-story buildings, paved roads, and major temples 2,000 years ago. For Abram to leave all that behind would be a huge sacrifice. 4,000 years ago, sorry. If it would be like leaving the comforts and opportunities in Singapore to live in a developing country. Now, it was not only the comfort of his country that God commanded Abram to leave behind. Genesis 12:1 says, the Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. So, Abraham had to leave his people as well. Now, much as we love to travel to other places as tourists, most of us would not want to become permanent residents in many of the places we visit. I'm sure you can identify with the warm and comforting feeling I experience every time I return from a long trip, get into the cab at Changi Airport, and as you travel smoothly down the East Coast Parkway, it feels so comforting because this is home. You get homesick after a while of being away, especially when where you go is culturally very different. You miss the language, the food, and the whole way of life that makes home home. So imagine what Abraham had to give up when God said, leave your people to go and live among other cultures that are less advanced. What was most remarkable of all was that God did not provide Abraham with an itinerary. The Bible tells us in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 8, by faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went even though he did not know where he was going. When my family dines out, they would always insist on knowing exactly where we were going to eat. Sometimes I would purposely mess with their minds by refusing to tell them. And even though I've always made good food choices in the past, they would still get really upset if I didn't reveal where we were headed to that time. Now, again, that's human nature. Imagine if we can gather physically together as a church like in the past, and we tell you that we'll be meeting at a new and better location. Your first question would be, where? What if I say that we would tell you the service location only on the morning of our first meeting there, in good time for you to get there? I think most of you will go crazy with the suspense and anticipation. Why is this such a big deal? Because not knowing where we are headed makes us feel out of control, even if it's only just for a meal. We crave the security of knowing where we would end up before we start out. We also want to know beforehand so we can decide whether it is a place we'll prefer not to go to, so that we can engage in some bargaining. Which is why Abram's response was so remarkable. He not only gave up comfort, he gave up control as well. And that's what many of us need to do if we want to experience more of God's blessings and enter into our God-given destiny. It's scary, but you're basically grappling with the question of whether you are going to trust yourself or trust God. And that's why God limits His blessings to us so long as we remain in our comfort zone. If not, we would naturally trust in the blessings rather than in God. We would become more interested in preserving our position than fulfilling God's purpose. 21 years ago, several of us left our previous church when our senior pastor had to leave suddenly. It was very painful to leave the church we had grown up in. But it was really not that big a risk to take because, well, we left along with a few hundred other people and to follow a leader we already trusted. But after several months, we realized that our senior pastor had no plans to start another church. We were at that time leading a group of youths, and we had to decide what to do with them. So we stayed in a hotel room to pray about the decision. I remember the day we decided to start Brighton Community Church. It was the scariest day of my life. We were leaving the familiarity and safety of the herd to do something on our own without any resources, money, full-time staff, or experience. We had no idea how to get started or where to go. And the truth was, many well-meaning people want us not to do something so crazy. I tell you, if the decision had to be made purely on the basis of common sense, rationality, the answer would clearly be, nope, we certainly should not do it. Well, I just read through the testimonies of the 37 people who were admitted as new members of the church last week. It moved me to tears again and again to read about how God had worked out His plan in each one of their lives. And it also caused me to be so thankful that we made that crazy decision so that so many people can now call this their spiritual home. That they can come here and discover eternal salvation, grow in spiritual maturity, find support to face life's many challenges, and raise their families here. In spite of our doubts and fears, in spite of all the naysayers, God has blessed us tremendously. We now have a thriving church that we all love. These are blessings that would not have been experienced if we had not been willing to get out of our comfort zone. The point is this: God's greatest blessings are not found in where you are now, but where He wants you to be. God's plan for you is outside of your comfort zone. So here's one truth that I want to impress on you. Change is painful, but if you embrace it, you will learn that the pain of change is less than the pain of regret. Wherever you may be in life today, I assure you that in 20 years' time, if you are still around and you look back, you will not be telling yourself how glad you are that you stayed put and did nothing new. Your greatest regret should be how you did not move out. God was beckoning you to do something new, something different, but you were held back by fear of the unknown and of losing control. Now, I understand the pain of change is real and unpleasant, but it is simply the short-term sacrifice we make for the long-term gain. And the long-term gain are all the blessings that God has in store for you, if only you are willing to step out in faith, because God is no respecter of persons. He is a respecter of faith. Now, I've spoken about the purpose of God's blessings, the place of God's blessings. Next, let's talk about the perseverance that is required to secure God's blessings. And that's point number 3, which is you have to keep getting out time and again. If you read the account of Abraham carefully, you will realize that he did not leave just once, but twice. In fact, God's call came to him not one time, but 2 times. Why do I say that? Let's go back to Genesis chapter 4, where it says, "So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him." Abram was 75 years old when he set out from where? Haran. So in Genesis 12, God's call came to Abram when he was already in this place called Haran, and he set out from there. However, whenever the Bible recalls God's call to Abraham, it always places the event not in Haran, but in his ancestral home, which is Ur of the Chaldeans. For example, in Genesis 15:7, God said, "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans." In Nehemiah chapter 9:7, the Israelites similarly record that God chose Abram and brought him out of Ur of the Chaldeans. Finally, in Acts chapter 7, the martyr Stephen made it even clearer. Acts chapter 7, verses 2-4 says, "To this he replied, 'Brothers and sisters, listen to me. The God of glory appeared to our father Abram while he was still in Mesopotamia before he lived in Haran. Leave your country and your people,' God said, 'and go to the land I will show you.' So he left the land of the Chaldeans and settled in Haran. After the death of his father, God sent him to this land where you are now living." What does all of these tell us? These tell us that God first appeared to Abram when he was still living in Ur and asked him to leave, set out. But interestingly, according to Stephen, God then at that time only asked him to leave his country and his people, but said nothing. But note that in Genesis 12, God Unlike in Genesis 12, God didn't say, leave your father's household as well. We've already seen from Genesis chapter 11, 31, that his father Terah left with Abram from Ur to set out for Canaan, but when they came to Haran, they stopped and settled down there. Abram had set out from Ur, but he got stuck in Haran and settled down, perhaps because his father Terah didn't want to go any further. Now in Genesis chapter 12 verse 3, God appears again to Abraham in Haran, and now he says, leave your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. What does this tell us? This tells us that Haran was a place of incomplete obedience. Abram had done well to get out once from his comfort zone, but he had now made Haran a new comfort zone, and God was calling him to get out again. There's a spiritual principle here. God's call on us requires us to get out again and again. That's why the Bible calls us pilgrims and sojourners. A sojourner is someone who stays in a place only temporarily. He simply makes a pit stop as part of a longer journey. A pilgrim is one who is on a journey to a holy destination. Now, we are all pilgrims and sojourners. We were never meant to get too comfortable in any one place or situation. We are supposed to keep moving. So we need to keep getting out time and again. I sometimes wonder how things would be different if my father had gone on to Indonesia as originally intended instead of settling down in Singapore. Perhaps he could have become a rich Chinese tycoon. Well, I will never know the answer. What I do know is that God will call us to get out of our comfort zone again and again. One of the reasons I was frightened of the decision to start Brighton Community Church was that I may one day have to give up my legal practice and become a full-time pastor. At that time, I had just been made a partner in my law firm, so becoming a pastor was something I totally did not want to do. My dream was to become a senior partner, perhaps even a senior counsel. The last thing I wanted to do was to be senior pastor, especially after what had happened to my own senior pastor. So when we first got started, I just told myself that we would eventually just hire someone from outside to come and be the pastor. But the truth is that I was stuck in my own Haran. I had enough courage to go along with starting the church, but I was not prepared to move beyond that at that point. I was killing myself, working at my job, trying to start up a new church, preaching every Sunday, and raising 3 young children. I was hardly getting any sleep. It seems strange to call that a comfort zone. But the truth was, I would rather keep doing all that, killing myself, than to take the plunge and answer God's call to do something different, to strike out to become a full-time pastor. It took me 3 years before I left my personal Haran, the place of incomplete obedience, and struck out into the unknown once again, taking up this job, much to the dismay and disbelief even of my own siblings. Now, there are many of you today here who have stepped out in faith previously, leaving your comfort zone to obey God. But that was a long time ago. You had left Ur, but since then you have settled down in Haran, a place of incomplete obedience. And God is calling on you to get up and move out beyond the new comfort zone you have set up for yourself, to follow God's plan and to experience the greater blessings He has in store for you out there. You need to keep moving out time and again. And it's never too late to do that. After all, Abraham was 75 when he set out for Haran. Getting out of your comfort zone does not have to be something dramatic. Start with smaller things, like eating foods that you've always avoided, mixing with people you normally shun, be reconciled with somebody you have fallen out with. Speak up at a meeting at which you normally feel too intimidated to open your mouth. Start building relationships with the neighbors in your estate. Take proactive steps to find a life partner. Or Some of you, you need to get out of that unhelpful relationship with your boyfriend or girlfriend that you've been stuck in for so long. Apply for a new job that suits your skills and passions better, even if it means taking a pay cut. Leave your children sometimes with a caregiver or your domestic helper if possible, so that you can have some quality time with your spouse, or just to attend cell group meetings. Try out a new area of ministry, or take up a leadership role. Start giving your tithes and start giving to the needy if you have not been doing so. Now, many people will spend their entire lives in their comfort zones. Some will venture out a little bit and then settle down in a new comfort zone. They are all just trying to get through life with as little injuries and scrapes and bruises and pain as possible. Not making waves, minding their own business, not catching any viruses, and staying out of trouble until their time is up when they will still die anyway. The longer you stay comfortable, the scarier it will be to live it. There is a high cost for living our lives that way. While staying put offers instant psychological benefits, we end up sacrificing the potential for much greater possibilities and greater blessings. So, for all those of you who are followers of Jesus Christ, this is even more regrettable because every single one of you is a caged lion. You have the God-given authority to exercise dominion over your own sphere of influence, to do greater things for God, to experience His power and His blessings in far greater measure than you've ever imagined. The only reason why you are not doing so is because you have confined yourself to a cage that is kept padlocked only by your own fears. Someone said that a ship in a harbor is safe, but that's not what a ship is built for. That's not what God created and gave His Son to redeem you for, so that you can stay in the harbor. You were made to go places and do things. You've got to go beyond your comfort zone again and again. And just like to also speak to those of you who have never put your trust in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, whatever your religious beliefs are, that's your comfort zone. And for many of you, you don't want to think about that. You don't want to think about other possibilities. You want to think about the beliefs that you hold. You don't want to step out and try something new. And today, I want to urge you to consider putting your faith in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Get out of the comfort zone you are in to experience the blessing that God has in store for you. And if that's your desire, all that you need to do really is to say the words of this prayer after me. I'm going to say the prayer, and wherever you may be, step out of your comfort zone today and say the words of this prayer after me. It goes like this. Father in heaven, thank you for loving me. I believe that you created my life for a purpose, that you have a plan for my life, that you want to bless me. I confess I'm a sinner, and I ask that you forgive me, not because I deserve it, but because of what Jesus has done. He died on the cross to pay the price for my sin. And today, I just ask that you will receive me as your child. Let us pray all together. Father in heaven, I just want to thank you that, Lord, you are at work in our lives, every day of our lives, when we know it and we don't know it. And I just want to pray for all those who are listening today, that they will just sense your call upon their lives, that they will begin to believe that you want to bless them so much more than what they can imagine. You want them to be so much more than what they are now. They have so much more than what they have now. But that it requires them to get up, move out from where they are. And I just pray that, Lord, you give them courage to trust you, to step out even though they may not know where they are going to yet, because they can trust that the God that they cling on to wants to bless them and not to harm them, wants to prosper them and wants to give them a life that is truly life. Thank you, God. In Jesus' name I pray all this. Amen.